So the story goes, the curse of the shaman's balls. So we were lucky enough to get hooked up with Colorado College via one of their geology professors, and that was about 40 years ago. And his daughter came down, fell in love with the boatman, and since then Moki Mac had been the preferred outfitter of Colorado College. And so the head of the Alumni Association would organize a philanthropic trip, whatever that word is, for all the alumni. And essentially, she'd screen out all the weak souls and invite only the coolest of the Colorado College alumni. And of course, she was asking them to build buildings on campus, where we were just cruising along and showing them a good time. And so every year when she'd come back, she'd bring, of course, a professor to help with the efforts. Usually it was a poet or an economist, but this time she decided to bring along the chaplain, who was this Baptist minister who moonlighted as a shaman in his spare time, which I don't know how that works, but apparently he made a go of it. So the shaman was very fond of wearing a sarong around camp, and essentially, dare I say, he was going commando. So you notice we kind of set up the chairs in a circle and have a nice little dinner. And on this trip, I was running the dory and was cooking dinner. And so when I'd finish up serving dinner and whatnot, and get my plate, the only chair left every night happened to be directly across from the shaman. And so, of course, you know, it was funny the first couple of nights. It's like, really? Is he just going to let the boys hang out there like that? And it's like, apparently so.
They do have to drive.
And so then, of course, you know, it's like there's always this one empty chair and me sitting on a bucket somewhere. And people are like, you know, why don't you join the circle? And of course, it's like, well, I'm pretty sure it's obvious why nobody else is sitting there. Because your appetite is hindered, dare I say, once you sit down and make the mistake of looking up from your plate. You know, I mean, you figure a man of God would have a little bit of decency, at least at the dinner table. You know, I mean, whatever. If you want to run around naked down here, knock yourself out. I mean, I can't bring enough sunscreen for that myself. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, let's set up the chairs in a line. And of course, the shaman's like, oh, no. That doesn't work. I can't make anybody uncomfortable if we're just sitting shoulder to shoulder. So we go to Havasu Creek, and, you know, needless to say, I might be a little worried about running this gaily painted wooden boat down through some of the bigger whitewater in Grand Canyon, which might be called Lava Falls. And so we go up Havasu, and it's a beautiful day, and, you know, we're going to spend all morning there wandering aimlessly and checking stuff out. And so we get the whole group up there, and of course people start peeling off, and oh, I'd rather sit under this beautiful cottonwood tree, or I'd rather just swim in the big kid pool, run the raft, and hang out. And so as we're hiking up, it gets down to this wonderful potter from Santa Fe, Sandra, the shaman, and Matt, the little bearded guy from the Azra rowing trip. And so the four of us are hiking up further, and then all of a sudden the shaman vanishes. And it's like, oh, okay. And there is a little aluminum mine up there where, you know, some guides go to just kind of hide out in the shade and get some downtime. And so I'm like, well, the shaman probably saw the telltale signs of the little chimney and whatnot, and a couple of tin cans, and popped off the trail up there. And I'm like, okay. So sure enough, I see the shaman climbing up to the mouth of the mine. And I'm like, well, I better go check on this guy, make sure he's not up to no good here. And so then I climb up the little 6-foot shelf to the lip, and he's sitting on this bench with his foot on the chest of this red-tailed hawk carcass, trying to rip the legs off of it. Yeah, and of course I'm just like, hey Shaman, what's up? Is that your pack lunch, or? And he's like, well, you wouldn't believe it. He's like, I went to the river's edge this morning to pray for a gift for Diane, who organized the trip, to show her my appreciation. And I was like, oh, prayed for a gift, did you? He's like, yeah. And I got to this, you know, I felt the pull of the mouth of this mine. And, you know, and I got here and I found this red-tailed hawk carcass. And of course I'm like, yeah. And so what you doing? He's like, well, I'm, you know, trying to get the talons off. And I was like, why again? Oh, for a gift. I'm going to make like a necklace or something out of it. And I'm like, well, you know, we are in a national park next to an Indian reservation, and maybe there's a couple of federal laws that you are breaking right now. Mostly desecrating a bird of prey is one of them. Trying to possess it is the second one, and the fact that it's a national park is the third. And so it's just like, you know, it's like, well, you know, you probably shouldn't, you know, go look for a pretty rock. How about that? Oh, no, you don't understand. I do this all the time. And I'm like, so wait a second. So you do this all the time? So you find dead birds and rip them apart? And he's like, well, not exactly that. And I was like, well, but right now you are ripping apart a dead bird. Right? He's like, well, no, you don't understand. I'm a shaman and a Baptist minister. You know, if I find a dead animal somewhere out there on the road or something, you know, I take it off, give it its last rites, and bury it. And I was like, before or after you rip it up? And he's like, oh, no, you don't understand. And I was like, you're right, I don't understand. And you should stop doing it now. And you're a grown adult. And whatever you do when you're done with this, wash your hands, please. Right. So I walked away, and then as I'm leaving, a couple other guides show up to check out the mine, and they're like, what's going on up there? And I was like, I don't know. I'm out of here. You guys can babysit the shaman. So they get up there and of course see the same thing. He doesn't stop. So then that night at camp, you know, getting there, and we're down at Fern Glen, and of course it's the night before lava, and needless to say, I've about had it with the shaman. You know. And so then of course, you know, finish dinner, and of course there it is, the loneliest chair. And so now I'm just, you know, I may be a little dehydrated at that point, and I've had it with this guy. I can't even remember his name. He's just the shaman. And so then of course I sit down, and he's, you know, full regalia, and the conversation goes a little something like this. Hey, shaman! Huh? Hey, you mind closing your legs or pulling your skirt down? We're tired of looking at your balls. And he's like, huh? What do you mean? And I was like, well, you know, I'm speaking for everybody here when I say that, you know, put your balls away. And he's like, whoa. You're speaking for everyone here? I don't think that's true. And I was like, you know, really? You want to show hands of the people here of who wants to see your balls while they're eating? And he's like, well, you know, I just don't. And of course, you know, people are. You can hear,
uncomfortable.
Yeah, you can hear crickets from about 3 miles away in the mouse park. And it's just like people are trying to eat and not just hysterical laughing. They're like, yeah, that's why our chair's available. You know, it's like, you know, put them away, pull your skirt down, cross your legs, do something. Nobody wants to see it. This is not the time or the place. And he's like, gets a little flustered and goes and you know, throws his dish in the dish line and vanishes. And I'm like, oh, thank God. And so it's like, of course, everybody's like,
thank you.
Yeah, like, we didn't want to tell the man of God about this. You know, he's a shaman, you know. And so then I'm like, you know, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, oh, small victory for me, finally. I'm talking some sense into a guy. And so then, of course, you know, I finish my meal and go over to wash my plate. And there he is at the dish line. And he grabs the fork out of the water and does one of these and starts muttering under his breath and trying to poke me with the fork. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. Yeah, Baptist minister, I ain't scared. God and I made peace a while ago. And so then I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so then, of course, you know, one of the other guys comes over and he's like, you know, I think he just put a curse on you. What do you think of that? And I was like, yeah, whatever. Shaman. So then, of course, I talked Diane into riding in the dory with me with a couple other passengers. And we're running the left side, much like the rowboats yesterday. And, of course, you know, I'm all cocksure and full of bravado. And, you know, it's like, oh, I got this, you know. Yeah, done this, you know, 70, 80 times before, nothing's happened, we'll be fine. But if something does happen, you know, this is what's going to happen, and this is how it's going to go down. And we're all going to swim and, you know, just swim to the nearest boat. We'll throw the flip line over the boat, get back in, row down, have lunch in the shade there. No big deal. You know, these things flip all the time. It's not going to be the first nor the last time that I flip over down there. So, sure enough, drift a little too far right, take the meat of the hole, try to high side through it. The boat goes over. I end up on top of the upside down boat for a split second, and then get thrown into the hole as the boat bucks me off and go underneath. And it's like, okay. So now at this point, I'm under the boat and I got a helmet on and I can feel my helmet bouncing on the side of the boat. And it's like, oh, I'm under the boat. Get out from underneath the boat. So I'm swimming along, kind of feeling around, and then see the gunnel right in front of my face, and just basically the boat kind of lifts up a little bit, and I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I push myself out, and I'm holding on. And I see the three heads of the passengers down ahead of me, and I'm like, oh, I took the worst swim. That's great. You know, I'm right here on the boat, start working the flip line and whatnot. So, of course, all the other guides are just right there, you know, Dory, Schmory. I got to save the guy again. And so they row over, Diane gets picked up, the other lady gets picked up, and the next thing, you know, it's me and this guy, Roger. And it's like, okay, Roger, we gotta, you know, flip the boat back over, grab on, climb up on the bottom of the overturned boat, pull on the strap, and the strap like slips and we both fall in the river. And it's like, okay, well that's once, all right, we got it now. So get up there, get back on the strap, Roger's pulling, Roger falls in, and now we're kind of running out of time getting down there towards the Sun of Lava. And it's like, oh, well, I gotta get this boat over before the Sun of Lava because it's gonna sink. So I'm like, screw it, and I just, you know, get the adrenaline pumping, get the boat rocking a little bit, and just pull the dory over on top of me. And it's like, all right. And so the dory is riding exceptionally low in the water. I basically throw the gunnel down, swim in, and Roger's floundering around on the side of the boat some more. And it's like, get in the boat. And he's like, I can't. And it's like, all right. So grab him, do the old one-arm, throw him in the front of the boat, and then go to start getting the spare oars off. And at this point, Roger's in the front of the boat, and he looks down, and there's this oar basically sticking out of the bottom of the boat. And I think to myself, wow, I didn't think that the oar would fit through the drain hole in the footwell like that. And so, of course, I'm back in my seat, and Roger pulls the oar, and the oar goes from right underneath me out of the bottom of the boat and into Roger's hand, and there's just this gnarled, broken stump of the oar. And of course I look down and it's directly below my balls. And I'm like, oh, okay, well that was interesting. So we throw the spare oars on and row to the shady lunch spot there where the rest of the trip is. And who is the one guy there on shore with a smirk and his hands on his hips? But the shaman. You were and yeah, and of course course, I'm like, putting it all together now. And, somehow during the course of the events of the flip, this oar, not only did it break, but it stabbed through the floor, through the hatch, and into the bottom of the boat, directly where I was sitting. And of course, then I'm like putting it together, and it's like, well, not only was I sitting there at one point, but I was also swimming there at the same time where that oar shot through the boat. And had I been anywhere near there, I would have been skewered to a dory.
Oh.
And so, so I had to give the shaman a little bit of credit after that. Maybe I, owed him an apology. But the best part was that if nothing else, the shaman did feel a little bit of remorse and wore pants around camp.
All right.
I don't know whose mojo was stronger that day, whether it was the shaman's curse or all my lucky charms that got me out unscathed. But yeah, so if you ever run across a Baptist minister moonlighting as a shaman,
let him walk how he pleases.
Maybe just look the other way at the other side. Maybe move the chair.
Great story.